while I do believe that every time, this time I know for sure, 100% know that this will be useful because I know the kind of value Shivam adds to a platform, to a gathering. And today you're very, I would say, very lucky to be here. I would say that today because I know that you can go back with a lot of insightful information. So Shivam, thank you so much for making the time in between so many things, I'm sure. And he has an exam coming up next week. So he's still here in the library speaking to us in between his studies. That's the kind of commitment that Shivam shows, and not just to people and us, or I mean, to you, to the community, but I've seen him give the same kind of commitment to the application and the same kind of spirit and drive. And he will explain more on that later. But if I were to tell you 2 cents on that, would be that that spirit and commitment will take you a long way, and it did take him a long way from Canada to his dream in the US. And that is definitely something that all of you all take away from this call. But more than that, Shivam, over to you to introduce yourself, tell them your journey, what to expect from this, and then we'll move on to the questions and everything else. Over to you, Shivam.
Sure. First of all, I see a familiar face here. Hi, Sushmita.
Hi, thank you for doing this. How are
Yes,
you?
long time no see.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Awesome, awesome. All right, so let me introduce myself. My name is Shivam Patel, and I graduated from Dentistry University, that is Nourah, Gujarat, India, and I graduated in 2016. And then I decided to I think I worked around like an year, but I won't say like a year, and then like for 6 months more, so not exactly 2 years. And then I decided to move to Canada, and then in Canada I was as a student visa, and I was in an assisting school for like the first 8 months, and then I decided to the immigration works is like you have to have 2 courses in Canada so that you can have 3-year work permit. So I decided to do an college MBA course. It's called Organizational Management. Well, that is something not significant, but so based on that, I was working at Walmart. So I didn't have any dental clinical experience for at least, I had a gap of at least 3 years, I would say, to get the immigration done. So because dental assisting is not recognized in Canada as an path to immigration, so like path to your permanent residency. So I decided to be a manager. I applied couple places for being a dental office manager, but all in like when you apply for a dental office manager, all they want is a good experience as an assistant first, like maybe hygiene or assistant, something like that. That is something I have seen in North America. And then that's why I decided to just stay back and work as an Walmart manager, and then got my permanent residency figured out. And then I stepped back again into dentistry. Even I'm working at Walmart, I was telling my colleagues all the time, solving their dental problems and stuff like that. It just kept me in that, no, I have to do it. I have to do it. So certain things like you do in life where you are off track, but what you have to be is like, you have to believe in it. Like, no, I want to do this. And then you just follow it. So I kept going, and I think around 3 years after working at Walmart, and then I started as working as an assistant. So initially, the barrier for me, I would just like to tell everyone was that I was a male dental assistant. So that is another thing in North America I have faced is like whenever I call like a dental office for they're calling me for an interview or whatever, because first of all it's an Indian name, right? So they will obviously don't judge that whether I'm a male or a female, or sometimes uh, so when I called them, and they're like, oh, we are looking for your wife. You were looking for your girl. I'm like, no, this is me. So it's just that it was tough for me to find a job as a male assistant. And then finally I found the office, and she was very fine with it. She's like, no, no, it's fine. I'm open to work with male assistant, because most of the North American offices, they are like the whole staff is female, except the dentist. And sometimes I have seen my friend working around, like even there is a single male dentist, and he doesn't want to hire any a male assistant. It's just a different story. So after working as an assistant at least for like 3 years, and then I started applying to school, because during that 3 years I had certain other issues, so I could not apply. And I was giving the Canadian equivalency exam as well, middle of that, because I wanted to apply to the Canadian schools. but that didn't work out because when I gave my exam, it just got cancelled. Something happened, and so those are like some of the road barriers I had in my life was like not in my control. Like my TOEFL exam kept getting cancelled for 3 times, and then like it's just like my when I was giving my NDB for this for application in US, and Canada had the biggest snowfall of the in like 40 years. So certain road barriers I had, like I had no control on it, but I just kept my patience, and I'm like, okay, there will be one day, there'll be one day. I'm just gonna be like on my day. And finally, when I started preparing for the application, I had no clue. Then I did my research. I asked around my friends. See, asking friends in the school, it's a good idea, definitely. But sometimes I feel like when I'm in school, I understand the value that things get so busy in the school that even you don't have time to spend with your family, like calling my mom in India or calling my dad in India. So it's just gets so difficult. So you will have limited information. So I would say, like, what I did was like research myself, like when going through all the websites, and finally I found Caapid Simplified, and during my research, and then probably we I feel like I have worked in my application too, but they have worked a lot in my application, to be very honest, like helping me in every stage, answering my question every single time. Like, you will have questions, definitely. So but I feel like my SOP. So why I got more into SOPs, because I feel like they don't know you. First of all, like schools you apply to or something like that, they don't know you. So your SOP is the main thing that represents yourself. Your application, yes, but your SOP is the main thing because they want to know like what ignites you being a dentist. And I feel like Sushmita, like I know we had like couple call meetings and I I had a lot of trouble. I gave a lot of trouble, but so I think that stands out. Like SOP in application, obviously, definitely stands out. Your experience, I would say, yes, it stands out. But I have no idea what worked out in my application. To be very honest, I would say, and everyone I talk to in my school, in other school, like I network a lot. Like I go to every social, probably like every conferences I can attend. When I talk to other applicants, like, oh, how you got into school, like what thing you got into school, they have no idea. So no one has idea like what worked out in the application. So whatever I concluded is like you just do whatever it takes. Like, like people ask me like, should I do volunteering? Should I do this? Should I do my to study my application? I'm like, just do it. Whatever it takes, whatever you can do it. I mean, I'm not saying like go beyond it, like above and beyond, but for something you might have to go it. It just depends. But I would say just do whatever it takes to your application. So like if you like say, oh, I want to like my like do my more research experience, do it. Like if you have chances, like if you do it, like if your finances, do it. I want to present poster presentation in this conference. If your finances, do it. So if I would say like if you don't have any financial constraint, and if you see like how I saw was like I'm investing towards my future, so I applied to like as much as school. I still remember, like when I was talking to Flynn and we had a meeting, and I'm like, how many schools are you planning to apply? I'm like, wherever I'm eligible to. Like I, I didn't have any like moving issue, like moving, because I was going to move to Canada, like US anyway, so like doesn't matter the location. But sometimes people have those issues, and it was just like I applied to most of the school I was eligible to. Like first cycle I applied to like 19 schools, and the second cycle I applied to around 24 schools. So I would say why. So this is actually funny story is I applied to my first cycle in 2023, and after all the application we did everything, and I think I got invited from 9 schools, and I got waitlisted in all 9 of them. And by the December I was still like, it's just like, oh, hanging around like, oh, someone's gonna reply in the wait list. And it just nothing came up, so I decided to like, hold myself. I think it was one day I decided, I'm like, it's okay, so whatever, it's gone, let's just focus on the new one. So like considering, like I would have like said, oh, why didn't happen, why didn't it's okay, things happen. So I just went to my another application, and what preparation I did for the first application, I doubled it twice. So I'm like, I took days off just to focus on the application, just to focus on certain things. Okay, has to be this. And second thing I would say in my second cycle was what I focused was more on bench preparation. But see the destiny. I got accepted in Temple, which I applied in first cycle. So my admission is technically from the first cycle, and I got an interview from second cycle as well. I know you have searched around. You might know like Temple has two programs, 2 years and 3 year programs. So basically, people who got into 2 year program and rest all goes to the wait list, and they call them next year. So I was one of those applications who got called next year. So I just had like 20 days to join the school. And then when I joined the school, and after 2 days, I got accepted to NYU, and in the same cycle. So no matter what, like I would have been graduate in 2027. So I decided, based on the fee structure and everything, I decided to stay in Temple. But the main thing I would say about Temple is the extreme clinical experience you'll get in the school. Like your schedule, like it's just like sometimes you have to say, no, my schedule is full. Like, I cannot have more patients in my schedule. So that is the best thing I've seen in Temple. So this was like my journey around 2 cycles. But I would say like it doesn't matter the cycle, like you apply like 1 or 2 or 3. You just have to keep modifying your application again and again, making sure that I would say one point I researched in my second application cycle, like when I was okay, what didn't work out is I took my first application, like I printed out the whole application. I went through each word, like okay, what could have gone wrong? Like, just thinking about just giving me myself a hard critic, like hard criticism, like okay, what this is like a good constructive feedback. Okay, this is this. So like every single line underlining, this is like starting circling. Okay. And then what I found out was, and I have told other, like whoever the friends ask me, I always tell them, write in application, write something that you have learned. Don't write something that is something they know already. Like, so I changed that and it worked out. The first cycle, I think I got like around 8 interviews, and second cycle I got around like 12 interviews, like invites. The reason why I'll tell you, because I think this was the main thing I did was, so when I had like I was working as a clinic as a general dentist in India. Then I wrote what exactly I learned, like not okay mouth mirror like, examination, like perio probing. No, they know that you know that already because you're a general dentist. Those are things very common. So certain thing I learned was like okay, I failed at extraction and learned the principle of troughing. So that is something I have wrote in that application. Then, because I was working in an endodontist, so I saw like how to do an root end restoration, like apexification, stuff like that. So many things like I have learned in that practice. That's what I have wrote in the application. And I think that worked out very well in the second cycle, but doesn't matter anymore. But I was got in the first cycle. But that is something I would say like I have learned in my application, that is something you should focus on more, like rather writing like common things. Because just see, like everyone's gonna write the same thing. So you have to stand out. You have to prove yourself unique in this application. So you have to see like how you can stand out unique in the application, and those all things, like you need help with it. Obviously, like don't just be alone. Take help, like professional help too if you have to. And because sometimes like what I use what how I believed in Caapid Simplify was because see, they have seen more applications, so they have more. It's like it's just say in dentistry, if you have a toughest extraction and then you just refer the case to an oral surgeon. So it's just, you just say like, let the profession handle, right? So something goes beyond your scope of practice. You just need help. So that's how I also took help with the application, and then it's just worked out. And working in right now school and everything, it just happens. So you don't have to like worry about the aftermath. Like first get this math done about the application, and then worry about the aftermath. Even I had a friend who called me and like, I don't know how I'm going to figure out about the loan. Should I apply? I'm like, see, your goal is to apply, just apply. That is something you'll figure out afterwards. And it got figured out. So just don't get those barriers out. Like first focus on the application and just get it done. That's what I would say. And immigration wise, I would say I never had any concern. So main thing what worked out during application is like I had a free restrictive travel to like all around the states, because once you have a Canadian passport, so you can travel in the states. But now the rules are changing, so that is also something different. But it hasn't changed about for a Canadian citizen, so you should be fine. And And for application purpose, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't make any difference. Like if you are a Canadian or an Indian, like any, as it doesn't matter. They don't see that thing. But for particular temple, like what we have seen in the like trends, even when I talk to staff members, they say that they're accepting more Canadian applications. So that is something you should look forward to. And I talked a lot. I'm very sorry.
That's okay. I was just about to ask, do you need a sip of water? But
No,
thanks,
no, no.
Shivam.
I
Okay. Uh,
Meenakshi
as
is here
long
too.
as you're here to speak, so we're happy about that. The more you speak, the better. I think you've covered a lot of things that anyway came up in the list of questions that people sent us, and also asked here. But with this background in mind, we'll, I think, take one question. Before the question, Dr. Sonali has, she's been waiting for a while. So
Sure.
you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question, Doctor.
Hi, thank you. So I have some questions regarding the CAPID application. From your point of view, how important do you think it is to apply early on in this, like, in the cycle?
See how I thought when I was applying about. I also like I was told by so many people that apply early as early as possible, as early as possible. How that logic works out is, see, they take around 1,000 to 2,000 applications, right?
Mhm.
Like every school, I would say, like they just want more applications, obviously, right? Because it's also finance, like the money is coming into school, so that's another thing. But like, see, the first cycle goes around, so like they have cycles too, so application rounds, I would say the rounds rather than cycle. So the first round application, they saw around like 600 applications, right?
Mhm.
So you decided to apply early,
Mhm.
so you were in that first round of application. So they have certain things they pick up in the applications, like, okay, I like this thing in the application, which we don't know what they like, but I'm just throwing just something they like in your
Yeah.
application, and they picked up your application, right? Your chances of getting picked up in the first round is more rather than your chances of picking up in the third round.
Mhm.
Like if something that is in your application that is something like it's okay for them, there's a chances that they just pick you in the first round. Then for the last round, that okay thing will be like very okay for them. Like, oh, it's just very common this cycle. Like everyone has that. So
Right.
that's the logic. That's why I applied. I was trying to apply it early. So I applied around like by the end of April. I was done with my application, like all the schools. I would say that was my logic behind applying early. So that could be
Makes
another
sense.
logic too. And people say that no, you can apply over the see. I have people in my class who
Mhm.
applied June, where I think that's where the temple application ends, and they are in temple. Again, you don't know what works out, so it's just a blind process. And as I said again, like just do whatever it takes. So if you're trying to apply, if you have a mindset of applying, I would say just apply early. Why do you want to wait for it, for the
Right.
deadline, right? And I know there are barriers you have to overcome, but if you don't have that barriers, your application is ready, just don't wait it, just apply.
Right. And I have a follow-up question regarding
Mhm.
what happens is certain schools like University of Pittsburgh and University of Michigan, they want you to give your, well, it's preferred to give you your ADAT.
Mhm.
Now, can how I mean, how can you go about this? Can we just submit the application and then update with the ADAT results? Because I think it takes about 4 weeks for the results to come in. Or do you think we should send the application with the results?
So school, that is again, I would say it's like more like a school question, to be very honest. But what I have seen is, honestly, I didn't give ADET. I was about to give ADET, so I already paid fees and everything. But for the second cycle, I was going to give it. What I was going to do was that I was going to apply once, and then I was going to first again, you have to ask the school like how it's going to work out. But I think Michigan does that. Like you can send your scores after. Okay, but they might have changed this year, so I would say ask the school, but certainly they allow you to do that.
Mhm.
It's
I
because they
think, sorry.
go ahead.
I think where my question comes from is because when you send in your application, that is like a complete application, correct? But when you say you want to update it, will they really look at your updated results? And does that affect your chances of getting in? So that's what I wanted to weigh.
uh, I would the reason why I'm laughing is because, see, how I take that math is, if I have to do those 1,000 applications and I am doing it like as my part of my job, I have to do it. are you sure that if you're working at a workplace, are you giving your 100% every single day? Like, oh, I'm going to be like, I'm so excited, like I'm going to give my 100%. So those are little things when you like, we send those little like updates to them.
Mhm.
I don't know if that the person who's working on the application is really like posting that like whatever update you have in the application. Some schools are very good at it. I know UOP is very good at it. Like if you send in a single update, they'll update it right away.
Okay.
So there are schools like that. So I won't say like it's everywhere, but that is my point of view that I see it. That sending any update afterwards, someone who is non-dental, someone who's just working as part of his job, easy does he gonna do the 100% of his work to like sending that thing and twisting to your application?
Mhm.
Chances are like 50-50, I would say. But certain things like ADAT, it's a big thing. Like it's a score. And the schools say it's not mandatory. So that means that you can apply and then ADAT like a score, you can update it afterwards for sure.
Mhm.
But again, I would say the best thing is to email the school and ask them, because
Okay.
schools are very good in replying. Some schools, I know Temple is very bad at replying. Sorry for that, but some schools are very good at replying, and they'll reply you straight away. Like Michigan is very good at replying. They'll reply you.
Okay. And then lastly, like you said, we should focus on what you have learned, right? So
Yeah.
we should, where do you think we should update this, in experiences or in the SOP, or like in the CAPID application, like where would you recommend that?
So I would say the CAPID prompts, where you're writing about your application, like your
Mhm.
experience, and then you have, I think it's like a small 200, like 300 characters you can write about your like what experience is that.
Mhm.
So that is what I'm talking about. Those words, like those 500 characters, are very golden characters for you.
Okay.
Don't waste it in writing like I did a mouth mirror examination, something like that. That is
Right.
what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows a dentist does a mouth mirror examination. Even non-dentists can know that, oh, they do a mouth mirror, like they take a dental mirror and just see it and they just look for the cavities, right? Everyone knows that.
Right.
This is what I'm trying to say. That something like, something like technological, I would say, I know it's something sometimes the application are seen by non-dental people as well.
Mhm.
But I would say like what I wrote was certain thing. I would give an example was Dignodent. You know what, like the caries
I
diagnosis, right? So like laser Doppler effect to carie diagnosis. So I just wrote that one of the office I worked, I literally saw like how they were diagnosing caries with Dignodent. Like they are using like oral cancer scanner. They are using certain things like that. So I just wrote that, oh, I had experience with that. Like I had CREC. I could see myself a crown milling with a CREC machine. So I learned that. So that is something new they want in the application.
Mhm.
Lately the trend have changed so much that schools are looking forward to focusing on how much digital experience you have, like digital dentistry experience you have. I don't know, this is something, I think it's because of it's just being into the like AI world.
Mhm.
So that's why they look for, but try to get that experience, like go to a conference and look for like people doing a like lecture on AI, or like digital dentist, like digital scanning or something. So have that experience in your application. That is what I would say.
Thank
That's
you
what I
so
meant when I said it. Yeah.
This whole example of whether the person sitting there would be excited every day at their job is one of the most accurate answers I've heard, Shivam, about this question that she asked, because he's absolutely right. You should put yourself in the shoe and think whether you would take the trouble of, I mean, you might, but you can never be sure if the school is doing it, and whether you want to lay the, fate of your application in their hands is a question you should ask.
Exactly.
But if at all, Dr. Sonali, if you're not able to send it earlier, of course, don't not apply to Michigan.
much.
What he said is your best case scenario. If at all you can't, then just go ahead and apply and then send it later. And emailing, like Shivam said, is a very, very important thing to do so that they'll gather your attention.
Thank you so much.
Yes, no problem. We'll take a question from the chat now. Dr. Bhavya asks, do US schools prefer permanent residents if Canada or Canadian citizens get more priority?
Not really. Schools do prefer US permanent resident and like US citizens. Like they have mentioned in their website already. So I had an Excel sheet made from every single school, even the school I didn't even apply to. So that Excel sheet, all I think there are like around 50 to dental schools in United States. Around like every state has like one, I would say, and probably like states like New York has three. So I made a whole list of the schools, and I first thing I wrote was like, what is their acceptance, like what they look for. Like, certain schools have surely mentioned in their website that we, like, we give priority to US permanent resident and green card. And that's something like, it's a thing, because if you are an Indian citizen, you would prefer to someone like Indian to, like, to education. So I have no, like, I'm not against that rule, but certain schools are like that. But for Canada, I didn't see any school that says like they prefer Canadian permanent resident or citizen. So I would just say just keep it to US permanent. Don't apply to the schools where it says US permanent citizen and we only take those. So those are schools you'll know it in your cycle. So don't waste your money on those schools. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like if they say on their website that we don't, like, we give priority to that, just don't. I mean, sometimes it's good to take chances, but I think that is something I would say like it's the least chance.
Yes, it could be where you draw the line and save something else. We'll just continue with Dr. Bhavya's question. So then, that is done. In your personal statement, did you mention your experience at Walmart?
Yes,
It's
I
an
did.
interesting question.
Yes, I did. So the reason why I mentioned in my personal statement is because there was it's a leadership experience I had. So schools also look forward that, because a dentist is a leader in the office. Like everyone has a certain kind of dental experience in here, North America. They would know that a dentist is the leader. He's the top in the hierarchy. That's how it should be, right? And so what they look forward in the application is like certain leadership skills you have. They don't. They are not strict on it. You should have it. I would say if it's good, then if you have, it's good. So I think the reason why I mentioned that experience was because just to showcase my leadership skill. Like, okay, I was a leader somewhere, no matter what, it was a non-dental field, but I just wanted to tell them that, okay, I did have a leadership experience. Again, as I said, just do whatever it takes for the application. So even if you're like experience like that, mention it like you, but again, keeping yourself like into like a shoe, like, someone else's shoe. Like I would just see that if I am someone who is non-dental and I'm looking at the application and he sees, okay, he has worked as a manager somewhere, so he knows that, okay, how to handle people. That's how I figured out and I wrote it. It was just like 2 line. I didn't mention like a full story, but it was just like a 2 line, just a mention, I would say.
Yes, you got to sort of drop these hints here and there in your personal
Exactly.
statement. And if you're interested, they might ask you in the interview. They could, maybe, or they probably won't. From
Sorry, your connection got.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Okay. From where did you take your bench prep? Is the next question.
that's a YouTube University. Uh,
And you had a bench, like a home setup?
yes. See, when cost cutting comes in, I'm a very Gujarati at it. So I would like. I used to joke around with Flynn and Sushmita all the time, like, oh, that cost cutting skills. I keep getting in there. So how I set up for the bench, I used to look around Facebook Marketplace for people selling it for low prices, and I used to hunt around entire Toronto, and I used to go around, travel around. Like one time I went to from Toronto to London, that is 2 hour drive, just to get the home unit, because the home unit is in the market is $5,000 and I got it for like $700. And even that gas of $20 was worth. So I counted everything. And I was very frugal of getting like, certain things. So I did get though like particular setups for the. I always show this picture to my traditional friends in school, and they're like, what the hell you had, like, it's just a setup. So what I did was like, if I know that certain school wants a Columbia typhodon, so I had a Columbia typhodon. If you know that a school wants an accidental typhodon like a Modu Pro, I had a Modu Pro. Like if you know that school wants to see you in a Kilgore, I had a Kilgore. So all that typhodon needs practice based on what invite I get. I used to practice on it, but I kept one thing common was like I kept practicing on Kilgore because that was the cheapest tooth you can have. Because Modu Pro, the single teeth is very costly, and Columbia it's hard to find. So so that I don't run out of my, like, you need to, like, for dentistry, you all know that you need to keep your hand in the field, like, you just have to keep like going around so that you don't lose that tactile sensation in your hand. So that's why I kept going with Kilgore the whole time. And then when I got interview from Temple in my first cycle, and then I found out from that they use Module Pro. Then I used to buy teeth. I didn't have Module Pro Typhodon as such, so I used to fit that Module Pro teeth in that Kilgore Typhodon and then practice. And particular thing, that's a good question to ask about bench test. If the school, that is what I've seen about Temple is, if the school says that they are taking a bench test, that means you should know that your 80% of your entire thing, whatever you do, no matter the application, no matter the interview, is going to go on your bench. Like, because that is a very technical skill they see in like someone who want to take, because they are, just imagine they are putting you straight into the third year and you are exposed to someone who has experience of 35 years as a faculty, and what they know is that you know already. And I know schools, the way school works is they have international students in every school, right? So faculty are like, they're very good with that, but how they know is we don't have to teach you, you already know. So that's how it. So when the school says they take bench tests, just focus on your bench test. Like, I would say, I had people like saying like, oh, you did I take it, should I do an interview coaching for this, like school? Yes, like if you don't feel confident, do interview coaching. But when a school says bench test, that means your interview is just 20%, 80% is goes on your bench test. So that's why I had like a setup. I was working, like I was working and I used to come every afternoon, like in the evening time I used to sit back and do all the crown preps. And like, first of all, what I did was I made a list of common things the school asked. So what common things is like a class 2 anywhere, like probably like number 3, number 4, like a premolar, molar, then crown preps. All the schools have like common things, like anterior crown prep, like a all ceramic crown prep for anterior, like posterior PFM. So I used to keep doing those things again and again. And based on what interview I got, I used to focus on what it was. And I think I know about like Loma Linda, like when I went there, I used to practice in a Kilgore Typhoon and it just worked out. It was okay for me. Like the test was really good for me. So I would say like it depends on how you approach the situation, but just keep that in mind. Like again, what I would say, I know I'll keep repeating this, whatever it takes. So you just prepare for the bench test and do whatever it takes just to keep doing practice again and again.
Amazing. Thank you, Shivam. Dr. Navjot, you can unmute and go.
So
Yes.
hi Dr. Shivam. I have one more question, like regarding the letter of recommendation. So I already like have 3 letter of recommendations done, and now I have a one experience from here in United States, and I have doctor, and additionally he's also graduated from Temple School, and he's willing to write me the letter of recommendation. But how I can add that on my application? If a 3 is already done, like is there any way I can submit the 4th one personally to the school, or do they accept like personally something, or just I have to add on the portal only?
Okay, so certain schools I know, like they are very strict on letter of recommendation. They don't take any letter of recommendation after, because this is
Yeah.
something you sign at a disclosure to, that you haven't seen the letter of
Right.
recommendation, right?
Mhm.
So if you send those letter of recommendation via email, that means you have seen it already. So that I
Yeah.
would say it won't give you that much impact in your application, because what they want is the letter of recommendation to stay silent. About application in Temple, I would say they allow you to add two more LORs. I don't know if it's still the same, because I applied in 2024, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like I'm not up to date to yet. But just check it, like on the CAPID portal.
Mm-hmm.
I know is that you can still upload 2 more letter of recommendations. But
Okay.
honestly, I would say I would upload the letter of recommendation which has the maximum experience, which I have worked with. Like, the person who has, if you have worked with the person for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
you have worked with the person just a year. So the person you have worked with 4 years has a more weightage than someone who you worked with an year. So
So
I
it
would,
should be North America. So it's not much difference if it's from Canada or America.
it's I had just the Canadian work experience,
Okay.
like solely Canadian work experience, and it worked out in both the cycles. Like I got good invites in both the cycles, so it does work.
Okay.
Like,
And sorry, one more question. For a bench test, like, do they send any criteria after that? Like in Canada, when we do clinical skill exam, we have a criteria like how much should be the preparation and what it would be. Like, does the school send us like this they need, or they just randomly give you any exercise to do?
Okay, again, this is something like, I would exercise. Okay, let me tell you this. What When I applied, I know that Temple does send you
Mhm.
like in month advance, like what they're gonna ask you in the bench test. And they on the I think on the week before they'll send you the guidelines, like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what we are looking for. Like we need 1.5 millimeter clearance on for your PFM, and we
Mhm.
need like 2 millimeter clearance for your ceramic. Like, something like they'll tell you. Temple does that. I know certain schools, like they'll call you for bench tests, then
Mhm.
the day before. So they
Okay.
have a session. Like, I think I remember because I got an interview from Nourah, Southern Florida. They
Mhm.
do that. They have a session for 2 days. So I mean, your bench test is next day, and the day before they allow you to practice in their own op, and they will tell you, okay, what else things we want. But those certain things, I would reach out to the current students in the school. They always know what is going on, like what they can ask for the bench, because they have been through that, right? Like if you reach out for a Temple, I would definitely answer like, okay, I know what they're gonna ask you. But this year, like, it was suddenly like sort out of surprise, they asked one more thing. And
Nice.
but again, like, people in school, we are about, because we prepare for the bench exam, right? So certain things, like the people I would reach out, I would increase my social network, and I would reach out to people in school to understand more about like what the requirements. Like if you ask me what Temple, I'll tell you straight away, like, okay, this is what they want, this is they want, because I'm
But they
right.
still send a month before, like what they're gonna ask.
Yes, for Temple I know.
Mhm.
Other schools, as I said, like Loma Linda is very surprising. They don't tell you. So Nourah, as I said, like they tell you the day before.
Okay.
So my best approach will be talking, like approaching someone who is in the school, like to know if you get an invite. But if you don't get an invite, like if you're trying to figure out, okay, what I'm gonna do, then again do the common things. Because
Right.
there will be a class two, there will be a crown prep, and there will be amalgam or a composite restoration for sure in every certain school, because those are the basic skills they want to test you on. So I
Right.
would keep doing those exercises again and again.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just to add on to that, as an example, Navjot, is that, like Shivam said, LLU does not send anything beforehand. And for years together, LLU was asking class two prep, if I'm not wrong, like for years together.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so everyone was very comfortable thinking that that will be what they'll ask. And then I remember it was I think it was last cycle or last to last cycle, MS might remember better.
2020, 24. Yeah.
Yes, she does. So 24, and then was that the year you gave your bench, Shivam?
No, 23. I gave LLU in
Huh.
23.
So 24, everyone walks into LLU bench. It's not even funny, but I'm smiling because everyone was shocked. And then they went on to the bench and they see that they've asked class 2 DO on a different tooth than what they've asked for years
Oh,
together.
okay, okay.
So the ones who were confident, like, like Shivam said, do try multiple preps, practice, and be ready to face anything, those people could go through with it. The others sort of flaked, or the others freaked out because suddenly you're like, you don't know anything. So being prepared overall would definitely help for those schools. And that starts now, or starts after your written application. Don't wait for
Right.
later. Interview coaching, I mean, interview, like he said, you can always maybe catch up faster. You can talk to like speak into a mirror, like take a few things, alter it, but bench needs time. So definitely take support if you need it. Moving on, we have a couple of questions on chat, Shivam. So Dr. Samiha asks, do you have any interesting question? Do you have any list of mistakes that you would like to share? Do you have any list of mistakes that you would like to share with us, which you did during your first cycle?
Okay. So the first mistake I did, I for sure I would say that was the top one, is I was doing everything at one time. Like bench, like application, like SOP, like everything I was doing in that month of March and like February. So the first thing you have to do is your plan out. Focus on one thing at a time. Because you know that, okay, the cycle opens in March, first week around. The first target should be stop everything what you're doing in January. Like even if you're preparing for you are preparing for the bench exam for like the previous cycle, stop everything. Focus on your application. The first thing you need to do, focus, is the SOP. Just get that out of the way. Then while doing your SOP, also focus on your application like prompts, as I said, two things you can do it together. But don't start like doing your bench prep, doing other things like, oh, I want to go to like volunteering this. No, those 2 months when you're preparing for your application, like the month, just focus on that first and just get that out of the way. Second thing I would say, like once you apply from the day of your application, whether you apply in April, whether you or like where like March, then the next day, probably like within the next month or something, you start working on your bench. So that was I planned on in the next cycle, and that actually helped me a lot. And then I realized my mistake. Okay, I should have just planned it rather than just getting overwhelmed with the application. Second mistake I would say is I made was, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but I was just under like, oh, certain school I just don't want to apply because of certain things they have wrote. And next cycle I was just like, see, I don't know what they're looking for, so let me just apply whatever it is. So whatever school I was eligible in, I applied. First cycle I was little iffy on it, like, okay, should I apply, should I not apply? And I was just okay, like, I would say first cycle I just thought about like, it's like $5,000 of application, like total, like if you see it's 5 to 6 7 thousand dollar application, like how. And then next cycle I just went crazy, like, I just like I took a loan from my my own family member and I just applied, like, it's just that was another thing I would say. I won't call this mistake because I don't know if it worked out or not. But one thing, as I said, first application I didn't wrote what exactly thing I learned in my application. But if I waived it, like my first application cycle was around like 8 interviews and second was like 12 interviews, then I would say something worked out in my application, like moving forward. So what worked out was that, as I said again, writing CAAPID prompts like those 300 characters is like golden words, and focusing on them, writing that very clearly. Okay, this is what I learned, this is what I want, this is what exactly have been through that. So I think those were certain things that I would say. First, second, okay. And another mistake was that not practicing enough for the bench. So for Temple, I'll be very honest on this platform. I still know that when I did my Temple bench test, and I drove from Toronto to like in Philadelphia, and then I was driving back. I was talking to one of my friend, and she's like, Shivam, like, how did the bench go? And I just told her, I'm like, I'm not gonna get into school. She's like, what happened? I'm like, I know my I'm very very particular at my things. Like when I do certain things, I have to be very picky on, and that's my OCD. So I told her like, okay, my number 8, I feel like the lingual is under prepped. It has to have 1 millimeter clearance throughout from incisal edge to the CJ. And I think like it's not 1 millimeter, it's something less 0.8. She's like, how could you see a 0.8 in the tooth? I'm like, I've scaled it that it's 0.8. Like it's not fully one. So I might just not get into Temple. And it's just I overassumed it, like, and I'm still in the school. So my bench was okay. I just do so I would say like at that point I felt like my practice was very less. Again, I would say like I know we have certain things, like you have to work like 8 hours and you have to run your family and everything. I totally understand that. But what next cycle I did was like totally focusing my bench. Like I made my bench very strong. That should be the strongest thing I made in my second cycle, I would say. Like when I did my first prep, as like when I joined the school, I did my first prep in the school, and then I went to a faculty. He's like, how many years of experience you have? I'm just like 2 years. He's like, this is not 2 years. So that helped me in school. So wherever you have certain like education in your life, it doesn't go in vain. It's useful somewhere or the other. So that was, I would say, certain mistakes I did. Particular application mistakes, I don't think so. Like again, I would say not, but yeah, I would say one thing is like I applied earlier in the next cycle than I applied in the first cycle. That was another thing I did better. And SOP wise and everything, I just changed certain things from my original SOP. The OG, I would say, the first cycle was tremendously awesome, thanks to Sushmita. So so I didn't really change in that, but the only thing I added was certain experience I had, like volunteering experience I did in the first cycle, and then I added that was the only thing I added.
if I may add to that, in Shivam's case, and for all of y'all who might be in his shoes, I think mistakes is definitely one part of the game. But apart from that, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's also consistency. Because imagine you apply in the first cycle and you get 9 invitations, you either tend to get scared and like give up, which is very like understandable because you feel like you made it almost but you didn't get through, or what we have seen is you get very laid back and aloof because you think, okay, 9 invitations, meaning my application is good and I don't have to really work on it. But I don't think we saw either of that with Shivam. I mean, he was probably feeling a bit scared. I don't know, but my point is he didn't really bring that into the application. He might have spoken to us about it, but in the end, like he said, he consistently made sure that his application is better. He took days off, is what he said. So that's not something we commonly come across. Once you've made it meaning they like you, then you tend to be like, now whatever, like now it's not in my hands, but it still can be in your hands. So that was not a mistake, but that's something you can keep in mind, if you are in that position as well, that until the day you get into school, there is no stopping. There's pausing, please pause and take a breath, but there's no stopping in terms of like your efforts, your consistency, and just your intent of being there. And that definitely we've seen with Shivam, and I know that helped because your 9 invitations or 8 invitations became 12 and you made it, right? So, and he didn't know that he's going to get called from Temple the first cycle. So he still went all out. And like he said, Temple or not, he would have been in school and why you are here. So that is the kind of conviction you need. And Shivam, a follow-up question on that about bench is, did you use loops in your bench test? What are your suggestions?
I was trained in school without loops, so I am used to both loops and in loops. So, but what I did was, again, as I said, Gujarati mindset. I bought loops from Amazon, and trust me, that is 3.5x. What else you can ask in $60? And just get used to that $60 loops. And the best thing about that loops is even that the one the school gave it to me, they doesn't have it's 2.5. The school gave me a worst loop I ever had. The Amazon one, you can adjust your interpupillary distance. So like like that $60 loop gives you that effort, like that effect too. Like you can adjust. So I would say it gets customized to yourself. You don't have to buy a customized loop. And I didn't had any fancy thing in my like band setup. Nothing fancy. Like I was very simple. And as I said, like the reason why I bought the loops is because of the light. Because I don't know when I'm going to the school, they have a good light or not. Sometimes the light is like too bright, something like that. Sometimes the handpiece has a light, but you can't rely on those things. So that is something I just wanted the loops for, is to have proper illumination in my prep. Like when I'm doing a class 2 in number 4, like number 2 do, like if they ask you and you fumble with light, that's just end of the world. So that's the only thing. Even right now when I'm doing my patients, I prefer using loops only for like maxillary teeth, because like you need to see the back and you just need good light. So that is the only thing I would say about the loops. And if you can't find the $60 loops, you ask me, I send it to you. And it's just best.
wow.
Yeah, and it's funny when you walk on this bench test, when you go on a bench test, and when you have like hundred of people, like Temple, they always call like 120 people. And out of that 120 people, you see with those same box and the same loops along, like at least 80% of the students. So so it's just your preference. And I have practiced without loops as well, and it just works out. But as I said, like good illumination the loops gives you. Magnification, yeah, but I would say more for illumination.
Is 2.5x or 3.5x better to practice with? I am working with 2.5 currently. Should I upgrade it to 3.5?
I am doing right now, I'm using 2.5. It doesn't matter. It's how you get adjust to your eyes, because dentistry is not about what you're looking at, it's what about your hand works. Like if your hand is used to getting that little slot and going back buccal and lingual, it doesn't matter if your loops, like if you're high magnification, if you're 5x, it's just your hands, like it just moves. So that's what dexterity you develop by doing your bench practice again and again, that you just get your hand there and just like do this. So something like I would say when I'm doing a do, like a class 2 mo do, so I just break the wall see, Dr. Stevenson video was I he so what in future, if I get a chance to meet him, I'm just going to tell him that you're my Dronacharya and I'm like Eklavya, and I'm going to give my fingers, because while I he was the one, like, I went through like his videos, and I was to see his video again and again, even when I was sleeping, I used to see those videos before sleep, so that my mind keeps working, that okay, my hand has to move like this, like doing a punch cut and then moving like this. So I would say that is something I would say you just develop that rather than just like focusing on the magnification.
Okay. We're so in respect of Dr. Shivam's time, we're gonna take questions until the ones that are there on chat right now, which are quite a few more, and then also the raised hands, which I see. And yes, you can share the link, Amazon link afterwards, right? We can
Sure,
send it to
sure.
the applicants. Yeah. Yes, Dr. Dashti, we can do that. So, taking the questions from up top again, a question that came in, Shivam, is Temple mentions a minimum of 2 years of dental experience. Does dental assisting experience in the US also count towards this? And would you recommend applying if I only have 1 year of experience as a general dentist in my home country? Two-part question.
Okay, so first of all, it says we recommend, like, we look for. That doesn't mean that someone who has zero experience, they won't take the application. So if you want to apply to the school, I would just go and apply to it, honestly, because as I said, I have colleagues who are straight away fresh out of the school, right? So no experience, right? So again, like North American experience, it does play important role, is because they don't want you to like straight away jumped into a school and not knowing around, like, what are, like, how the thing's going to work out, because it's more work for them, like, to guide you. So like someone makes their work easy, like life easy, rather than making it harder by taking applicants who has no idea what's going on. So I would say that that little experience helps. So it doesn't matter if it's 1 month, 4 months, just take a like a North American, let's just get used to the environment, how the insurance work, how things around like sterilization work, like what are guidelines and protocols here. So that's why that's why they look for those experience, because they just want you to have certain kind of idea of how things gonna be in here. So it doesn't matter if it's 2 year, 8 months, just apply, because as I said, like, I have few colleagues again that they're just fresh out of the school, so it's just something you don't know what works out in application, so just apply.
Got it. And would you recommend applying if I have only about a year of experience as a general dentist in my home country?
I had 1 year of experience, right?
Yes.
So that's the simplest answer.
The most straightforward answer. And yes, please do apply. 1 year is good. Like he said, there are people without even a year because they are fresh
Yeah,
grads who
yeah.
moved to the US. Yes. And somewhere along those lines, Dr. Aima asks, volunteer experience from home country, does that hold the same value as volunteer experience in the US or Canada?
I won't see about volunteering experience. I won't give extra efforts on that. But if you have that, just put in an application. Because like home country, look, first of all, the reason, as I said again, what they look for is like how much experience you have in North America. Because again, I said it's just how used to you are with the environment. So something you have done in India other than being an associate, like a general dentist, it won't really like much more effect in your application, because again, they don't know how things work out in India. So I know they also see those YouTube videos and, like, street dentists and everything. That's another different story. That's just that's another thing. But they don't know like what things, like, how things work out there. So I would just rather have certain things that are here, like in North America at least. Like, doesn't matter Canada or doesn't matter United States.
Awesome. There was a question about amalgam restorations at home. How did you practice amalgam restorations at home? I think you already covered this, that with your
I had
home bed.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, awesome. And how did you get your preps evaluated? Did you prep every day?
Yes. So my preps, I am very strict on myself. I have high standards on myself. So I used to self-critique, because what you have if you are doing a crown prep, the best critique on you give is on a crown prep. Like, I used to make a putty index. So when you make a putty index, you know how it is, and then you measure with yourself with the probe. Okay, this is okay. This much reduction. This much reduction. No, it's not going to work out. And for class twos, I used to use the again periodontal probe to check my measurements. I used to be very precise on the measurement. It has to be pointed, then it has to be pointed. If the punch cut has to be the tip of the 330 burr, then it has to be 330 burr. So that is because, see, even like someone you send, like I still help people with critiquing the preps, and it takes me sometimes, like when I'm sleeping, I just record a video, I just record myself and just send it to them. Okay, this is how you should improve, this is how you should improve. But it took me like 2 days to answer them. So then you're just wasting 2 days again, like waiting for someone to critique on it. So rather just do a self critic, because you have those guides. See, follow the ADEX guidelines, I would say. The ADEX exam is an exam you give in school. It's a practical exam, so it's kind of like a board exam. Before you start practicing, unit tested, you have to give that exam. I think people are aware about it, that there's an exam like that. So when you go to ADEX website, it has those criteria for ADEX. So ADEX, they ask around, I think they have same criteria as what Temple asks. So they have a crown prep for like number 8 PFM. So those have criteria. So every school follow that criteria. Like for a class 2, they have a criteria there as well. So just go to the ADEX website and get that resources from that, I would say, and focus on that. And I would say one another thing was Dr. Stevenson's preps. I saw all that, and those measurements are the perfect measurements. He asked you to don't. I didn't buy those fancy instrument that he had a special, like, was like I think it was a condenser, and then you have the condenser like a certain millimeter condenser. I don't have any fancy instruments, but I used to imagine, like, I used to measure my burrs. I had a gauge, like the ball gauge. You have Bowley gauge for your burrs. I used to measure my burrs, like this is 0.8, and the 330 tip of the 330 is 0.5. So that, okay, this when I put in my cavity, is it 0.5? Is it 0.8? That's how I used to measure it.
Awesome. Dr. Navjot, you can unmute it. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Shivam, one more question. Can you
Yes.
say something about the GPA, like how they consider in the school? And like I'm graduated more than 10 years and working not as a dentist, working as a dental assistant for many years. So what things will compensate my gap more? Like they will prefer more someone who has a dentist experience from back home, until like I don't have dentist experience from many years because we were in immigration and we working as a dental assistant to different reasons of family and all. So how these gaps will compensate?
So again, I would say the same thing. We don't know what they're looking for. So for certain schools, your gap won't matter a lot. For certain school, it may matter. But what they look forward is like to compensate that gap, how much clinical experience you have gained. Like, again, gain isn't like it has to be the same number. Like if you have 4 year gap, you have 4 years of experience. No, it's not.
Right.
It's just like, okay, even though you had a 4 year gap, you still went ahead and you came back to the field. And so certain schools also see that too. Like I mentioned, like I was 3 years away from dentistry when I came back to dentistry for 3 years. So I had a gap of 3 years. So it's just, I don't think so. Like those invites I got, they really the gap had matter a lot to them. But the other schools, other 12 schools, it might have mattered. So I don't know. But you cannot compensate those little things with certain things. The only thing you can compensate is with more clinical experience.
Right.
But you cannot, like, that is something, it's very subjective. Like you cannot like just go around like have clinical experience. So try what you can. So whatever is in your hand, whatever is in your limits, I would just do it. Like whatever I can do to my 100%, I would just do it. That's what I would say to this. And about GPA, I would say GPA, if the school website says that we don't accept people with low GPA, like, like 2 GPA below 2, then don't apply. If you have below 2, because they filter the application straight away. If they, whatever things they have mentioned in their website they want it, they'll filter the application straight away. So no, it's just you just wasting money on that.
Useless. Yeah.
Dr. PC. Okay, I think you've lowered your hand. Dr. Sonali.
Hello again.
Yes.
I had a question regarding the benched exam.
Mhm.
Um, Besides your dental loops, what else can you take from your side? Like, the measurement gauge that you were talking about. Can you take that into the exam or?
No.
Uh,
So I think I gave three bench exams till now. Four, three. None of the schools, other than none of the schools allow anything else other than loops. So the loops is the only thing that you can take into the exam.
mhm,
And some certain schools are so strict. Like I know Temple, they don't even allow water bottles in the clinic, like in the lab. Like it's just they are very strict on it. I mean, you can go out and take a sip of water. It's just they like to put it everything outside.
mhm,
It's not that you are like trying to cheat or something. It's just infection protocol they follow, like infection control protocol.
mhm.
So that the loops is the only thing they will allow you. Like
Okay.
not even like sneaking a bird or something like that. Don't do all those stuffs. Like it's unethical. Like I have people like asking me like, can I just take an RGS bird because I want to smooth my class too? Don't do it because like you are a professional. You represent yourself as a professional person, and if even if chances of getting caught and this is they don't catch you per se because it's students who are roaming around and but it just looks bad as in like a professional and it's just unethical okay, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what I'll say.
Right. What about like the birds that they give? Is everything new or are like
It's just like your fresh, like every time you use like fresh birds, like
okay.
they toss it out. Like even like right now, if I'm doing a class 2 in a patient, we toss out the bird. And
Mhm,
I think in every school I've seen like freshly packet, like you're just breaking the packet and using the bird. So that is one thing I would keep in mind, because sometimes like when you're doing a bench prep, you're using
mhm,
the same burn again and again. Like my 245, I still remember it has burn marks on it, but that was my mistake. Okay, coming back to that mistake part, yes. So try to use the burrs like as new as possible, because
mhm.
that cutting efficiency of a fresh burr and a cutting efficiency of a burr that has been used 15 times
Correct.
is
Yes.
different.
Mhm,
And in schools you'll always get a fresh burr and like a nice tooth, right?
mhm, mhm,
So when you're doing your bench, like when you're practicing in your regular day practice, when you don't know you are being invited to the school, I would just keep going with the same birds just to save money on it, because I know it's
mhm.
very financially burdened. When you're near to the like when you're being called for an interview,
Yeah.
then I would start focusing more on the school base, like okay, using fresh birds, something like
Mhm.
that. Not
Right.
every, but just what I'm trying to tell you.
Correct. And then while giving the exam, say for example, if the burr breaks the tip of the burr, what happens at that point? Do they give
Easy.
you?
Yeah, they have abundant supplies. You just raise your hand and they'll just come to you. Like
I
I
see.
feel like every school is very good for that, because I had a similar issue in Loma Linda. Like something happened, my 330 broke because the handpiece fall in the ground, and they gave me a fresh new handpiece and a fresh new burr.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Dr. Bhavya.
Hello, Dr. Shivam.
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I have some questions related to your volunteer experience in Canada. If you can share something on this.
The volunteer experience I had in Canada was, I think it was Red Cross Society. So they have this something called as disaster management. So technically, like I would say, I just put it because I just went like few times, I would say. And they didn't mention a date. So I would say that they didn't mention a date in that thing, like how much I worked. Was that one was I used to work for daffodils, like in every April that it's called daffodil month, and they give you like a you just stand outside of a beer store or LCB or somewhere, and anyone who donates their money, you just give them a daffodil, like a pin. So I did that, and that was something I first see. I would this is very funny story. I would tell you, when I came to Canada, I was told by many other people. I didn't even do my. This is my mistake. I didn't do my own research. People said that you should have a volunteer experience for your immigration application. Okay, so I did that volunteer experience because of for my immigration requirements, And I found out afterwards there's no column in your immigration application that says put your volunteer experience. So that is another story. But that worked out. So that volunteering experience, I would say, was just for a few months. It wasn't something significant. I would say, like, sometimes people have a good volunteer experience, but they don't get accepted. So that is, again, like, those volunteer experience. I feel like one volunteer experience you can do is the Mission of Mercy. You can work as an assistant, and that is a very good volunteer experience. You can, if you have chance to do that, because I went from the school, like, I know few people went from the school for their volunteer experience, for Mission of Mercy trips, and you can literally feel yourself in an environment for North America, like how things work out. And I think that you can put in an application that, okay, I went for Mission of Mercy, because they know Mission of Mercy, you're more like working in the community. So that is something volunteer experience will worked out. Otherwise, other volunteer experience is just like just putting something in your application. Sometimes just sometimes you just want to put everything in your application, but you should also sit back and see, like, is it really worth to put it? Like, is it okay? Because sometimes even increasing the page size, like so many things, also makes it very complicated, because you have to make sure that everything you have wrote, it's also appropriate, and it's just more work for you as well. So just make sure that if it's really relevant, just put it. Otherwise, I don't think so. It's really a big, huge factor.
Sure. And also, have you also volunteered in India, and have you put that too in your application?
Yes. So I, like, in India they have temple, like, charitable trust. So I did work
Yeah.
with a charitable trust. But I only used to go on second and fourth Saturdays. So I just wrote that I used to go on second and fourth Saturdays. And honestly, all I did was extraction. So I just mentioned that there was a charitable trust hospital, so there was limited resources, and all I did was extraction. So that was a good extraction experience I had. So that's what I wrote in my application.
Okay. And one more question about the CE points. Like, have you done any online or hands-on continuous education, something like that?
Honestly, I have, as I said, I was very tight on budget, because I want to spend all the money in my application and my bench preparation. So I didn't go anywhere to do any poster presentation, like any C programs, anything. All I did was those Colgate C programs, like, online C courses.
Yeah.
The only school I did it, I don't want to make this controversial, but it's just the only school I did it was for UOP, because UOP is the only school they ask for list all the Cs you have done. So just to make that application bigger, like in page wise, I just did whatever free C I could get, like Colgate, like, all those websites you have, Dentcare,
Yeah.
dentcare.ca. I just did that C programs. I didn't honestly spend a single penny on any C program. And if you are getting a chance to do that, like, if you don't have any financial, but like, consent, that also send out, like, if you can do it, like, but try to do something that is hands-on. That's what they look for. Like doing a local anesthesia course, that's too much, sorry. Doing like implant preparation, like, guide preparation, like surgical guide preparation course, something like that. That is more heavy in your application, rather than, like, doing an online digital photography session or something like that, I would say.
Okay. Thank you so much for your answers. And one more question about the TOEFL score. What was your TOEFL score at that time when you applied?
So I gave TOEFL twice. Okay, my first TOEFL was 96, so I didn't even care to apply with that score. Even the school says 90. See, TOEFL is something, it's very a topic, I would say. How I did the math was, if two-person have the same application, this is my point of view. This is not has to be. I'm just telling my experience. If say A and B have the same application, same amount of experience, everything, what is a quantifiable thing in your application? Like, the thing that has, like, a percentage. There's two things: either your GPA or either TOEFL, because rest all the other things are like quality. It's not quantity. It's like you cannot quantify them. Like experience, 2 years experience, 2.5 experience, you cannot quantify them. But scores, like your GPA and your scores, you can quantify them. So GPA is already done, because you are done with your school. So that is not in your hand anymore. So whatever it is, just accept it. Okay. But TOEFL score, I would say, even though school says we accept 90, but if the school is getting someone who has 115, like why would I prefer to you go with someone who has 90? Like just tell me that. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
So I didn't even bother with that, applying with that score. And then I literally struggled for my TOEFL. I had to like give TOEFL thrice because it kept canceling. One time the center got on fire and I was given a different date. They're like, just go for a search for a date. Then I went and they took a home TOEFL test. They said that you the TOEFL, it's just started and just stopped. And then they said that you might have like, cheated in the test. So I had to fight that. And finally, after the fourth attempt, technically I gave exam twice. And then the fourth attempt, I gave my TOEFL and I think I got 108. And then I applied to schools like with that score. I made like like I know I had the conversation with Flynn. She's like, when are you gonna apply? I'm like, I'm waiting for the TOEFL score. I'm waiting for the TOEFL score. This is something funny, but I went to India just to give a TOEFL exam because my driving license in Canada was under a different, like it's just different story. But it was my account was blocked, so I had to use another account to give a TOEFL exam. So it's a journey. But as I said, I did everything I could do to do my application.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
No
Dr.
worries.
Shivam, for your answers, honest answers. Thank you.
One more question, Dr. Shivam. Do we assess for infection control during bench tests?
So what they look for, they don't look for like you if you're touching multiple million things with you because it's a dummy, right?
Mhm.
But s- see, they don't have like first of all, those are student volunteers who are in your bench stress, so they don't even have right to critique on whatever you think you're doing. But I would just keep it things in a way like you are a professional, you're representing yourself as a professional. So how you will be in there as a act as an professional like dentist, that's how I would say it.
Mhm.
So it's they don't critique you on that, but you just representing yourself, that's what I mean. Like, so just don't be like just like throwing around things and like making things messy. No, even like in your in your private practice, you don't like things messy. Like it has to be proper because the patient is looking at it. So just be that in that environment, but you
Right.
don't get critic on it, to be very honest.
Hello, Dr. Shivam. Thank you. This has been great. I have just one quick question on CV. My resume has been very extensive on research since I've been working at UAB for research. So I was just wondering that how long can we keep the CV? Because the research experience is so good, and UAB professors also have like a light of it. But also, I have a dental experience and volunteer experience. So I was preparing my CV and I realized that it's just too extensive for a dental application. So, what would you advise on that?
See, CV, I had the same fight with Flynn because my CV was long too, and I think we had like I think I had someone working with like we were working together, and it's just like it's too long. You need to sort it out, but because you get so overwhelmed because you want to write everything you have in your life in your CV, and that is very understandable, right? But the thing is, again, put yourself into a person who is in school who's going to give you admissions. I have 2000 applications, right, to see. So 2000 CVs. Do I have time to go to that 10 pages of CV? Do you think? Am I working today? Am I working by am I giving my 100% to to my day? No. See, people are frustrated and tired working in school as an administrative. I shouldn't say that, but I'm just saying, just imagine that the worst scenario. So do you think like they have time to go through that all the like 10 pages or whatever you have given? I don't think so. So just make a smart, I would say work smart rather than work hard. That is also a mistake I would point out. Yes. So concise it in a way and use certain words that creates impact, like in your like application. Research experience, it's a big factor in your application. Yes, but again, it's just one part of application. Like there are people like myself and other my colleagues, we have no research experience and we are in the school, And there are people in the school with great amount of research experience as an MS, and they have worked into like as a biostatistic, as a researcher, like a researcher with NIH. So it works out as well. So I would just keep it. I know I'm giving very diplomatic answer. It's just, but you don't know what is working out in application. So people with research is also getting accepted. People with not research, like no research experience, is also getting accepted.
I see. Yeah. All right. Thank you. That helps.
To add to the diplomacy, Dr. Drashti, we know people with 9-page CVs have gotten into schools like Colorado who asks for 4-page CV. But do you want to take that risk and try to be that exception? You don't. So that's the point. Like, yeah, try to. It's I think Nishanti is here on call. She's like our go-to CV person on team. She'll tell you like it's a whole discretionary thing. Like you have to sit down and weigh the odds, weigh one experience against the other, and see what you want them to hear about you, and then keep that. And very painfully, but like
It is-
shell out the other.
I think it was Nishan. Yes, I remember. I think I
Well,
was
yeah.
Nishan. Yeah. I was saying, isn't it too long? I still remember the line.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard, but yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really messed up with my CV. I'll be honest, because I've been with UAB start of it, and the research experience has gone way too far since I'm working. But now I have to put my heart out and just take it off. And I'm like, this is also important, and it's just so tough. So I was just kind of figuring
Yeah.
out how I can curate it best. But
But if it makes you feel any better, CV is easiest of the lot. Like
Yeah,
if you want to
really,
zoom out and
I
look
totally
at it,
agree on it.
yes, yeah,
Totally agree
100%.
on
It's
it.
the most template-based thing that you'll do, right? And one thing, just if it makes you feel better, is if there's something that it's really close to you in terms of experience that you're canceling out in your CV, try and bring that somewhere else. So, for example, in the statement, like it should not be like a whole paragraph where you list out your research experiences, but 1 or 2 lines that show them that you have done more than what could fit in your CV is well and good, is enough. And then when you're called for the interview, if any question comes your way about research, just slip it in. Slip,
okay.
saying that I have so much research experience that I had to actually painfully cut it down. They'll all like a good laugh, a good smile in between.
Yeah.
So, like slip in things where you can and just sacrifice it on your CV. And CV, they will definitely give more importance to your statement. CV is more like to understand visually, like a diagrammatic effect. What is Drashti's story? That's the only purpose that CV serves. So, for the greater good, compromise in the CV and put it somewhere else.
For CV, I would just like to add one more thing. I feel like CV does matter, yes, but your CAPID prom is the same thing. Like whatever you are writing in the application, it's the same thing. So you're doing 2 exercises, right? So it's just schools, like whether they have 2 things, whether they see this CAPID prompts or whether they see a CV. I would say CAPID prompts makes more like it just makes it more easy for them rather than reading that 10-page long C, because I feel like when from how they pick up the application from CAPID is like they have this certain things, like they have a different portal first of all, like to look at application. So it's just things that get highlighted already for them to see it on your things from the CAPID prompts. So rather focus on CAPID prompts rather than CV. I would say like what I had done in my application.
Yeah, that's even better because there you have a 600 character limit, so you can't really overdo it. You
Exactly.
have
Right.
to. So, and that's another good tool. You can actually write down the experiences for your CV in the like keeping in mind 600 characters, and then paste it to the CV. So you'll not go overboard with the bullet points in your CV as well if you're finding it hard to contain it. So that can be a thing that you do as well. Whatever works for you, just find tools that
Actually,
works.
I know you're straight to the point. I got a perfect idea what to do.
Oh,
Cut my
awesome.
task.
Awesome. Okay, go ahead. Okay, I said we'll wrap up, but Dr. Sonali, we'll take up your question as the last one, just in respect of Shivam's time, and he has an exam next
It's
week, guys.
okay. It's okay.
Okay,
Sorry, this is
no
the
doubt.
last time. I'll keep
No,
it
it's fine.
short.
It's fine.
We'll take your question.
I'm enjoying it, and I love to do things I enjoy.
Okay, he's
Thank
encouraging you
you.
also. Go ahead.
So you had mentioned that there's certain keywords or special words that you should use in the CV. Um, can you explain a little bit more on that?
So certain impactful words I would say is I don't have a example in my mind right now, but I would say like something that can condense that 10 line into like a 2 word. just to make it, because again I said there's a 600 character limit, right?
Mhm.
So how much you can write, but you just want to make sure that you write whatever you write. And again, one thing is, I know like we are in the world of AI, but you can easily recognize that ChatGPT has written this. And like even schools have tool, like even I was given an assignment. See, this is something I just did an assignment last week, and I have felt myself that okay, now I have lost my skills of writing. Like where did that TOEFL skill go? It was very tough to write without, because they told us in straight away, like if we find like it's more 30% of more, like you more than AI used, we're just gonna straight away like give you a zero on the assignment. So you can use AI for those impactful words, but I feel like if the schools filter it, they would, like a person who is working with the application, they'll know that you have used AI like to figure out those words, like getting things in your application. So impactful words, honestly I cannot think any example, but something that can just take it, like something that can condense that a big line into like 2 words.
Mhm.
That is what I'm talking about. Like if you're saying that you want to write about like let's say dignodent, like so the dignodent word itself is enough. Like everyone who is working in application, like as a dental faculty also looks at the application, so those all words will make sense. As I say, like schools are looking forward to have, like your applications to have more technological words. So try not, rather than focusing on English, I would say rather focus on those technical dental words,
Technical dental tools. Okay.
right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Use jargon when you can. In CV, it's always helpful. Dental jargon, names of softwares that you've used, like I think Shiva mentioned that earlier. Then quantify it, like number of patients that you might have taken care
Yes,
of in a
that's also a
case.
good thing. Yes.
Exactly. Nishanti is saying quantify. That's very important. So whatever they should be able to understand the gist of your experience quantifiably as soon as they can. And then words like obviously verbs and like if efficient or things like that. I mean, efficient is the most common thing to go for, but try to condense it using those impactful words, right?
Okay.
That helps.
Thank you so much. This has been very, very helpful.
No problem. Anytime.
Thank you. I really do want to especially mention everyone who came on camera, all of you here and the ones who were before. It really helps to keep it more engaging and also gives Dr. Shiva more company. So thanks for doing that. This will help you all in the journey going ahead.
Yes.
Um, Shivam, thank you so much. I think we've had a really big turnout for this webinar. Some like 30, 40 people through the webinar. Thank you so much to the ones who came in and to you as well, Shivam, for putting out the video on Instagram. I know that helps people to connect with the person. And all these are small things, but all of our Pathfinder hosts, they put in their time to really give us what we need to come and do this for you all. So I really, really appreciate it. Words would not do justice. Thank you so much, Shivam, and good luck. We
Always try to play
again.
with words.
Thank you so much for being here. And a lot of them are asking how they can keep in touch if it's possible. What would you prefer? Email, LinkedIn? Is that okay?
I honestly, like, I have no time for LinkedIn, and I would start LinkedIn when I'm looking for a job next year. But Instagram is the source you can like contact me. So I think yeah, like I'm
Mine's
very good at replying, I would say. But sometimes if I do reply like 2 days, just see like if I'm just stuck with like exam or something. So that would I would say. But once you get like if you want to get in touch, like once you get temple invite or something, definitely I would love to share my phone number. You can send your preference, and I would love to critique it. And but again I would say like focus, like take one thing, like don't get overwhelmed. This process is overwhelming, I would definitely tell you, but just do one thing at a time and just get one barrier at a time and we all go through the financial, family, like all those constraints. But remember one goal, that why you are in this field and why do you want to do it. Like just be that, like, oh no, I want to do this. And see, I would say one thing, like my family, like my grandfather used to say that when you're doing something, just be a horse. Like, you know how in India when you go to a wedding, and you see a horse, they put that thing in like horse so that he doesn't see anything else and he doesn't go away, then he just walks straight, right? So when you're doing this, when I was doing my this journey, I had so many things going in the background, but what what was one thing was my capital application and my like I want to get into school. Well, I was this, it's like I just see only one thing, and like it is in the like this is not something new. This also said in Mahabharata, like what Arjun did was just looking at the eye. And again, I would say one thing quoting Mahabharata. I know your friends gonna laugh because I posted this and I told them when I was telling about my admission. It's like I was kind of like Arjun and they were Shri Krishna. Like they were just following. Like no, I was just they're helping me the guiding me the path. Okay, this is where you should go. No, this apply this time. No, you this is the time to apply. Exactly what they did. So I know I wrote that too. So that is what I would say. Just focus and just know that you just want to do this and it happens. And once you get into school, it's just things align. So don't have those things in your mind that okay, should I apply because I'm in New Jersey? Should I apply because I'm in one thing, yes, but all it matters is that DMD degree. So get it from whatever school you can get that. To be very honest, it doesn't matter. Like once you graduate, it doesn't matter. No one's gonna ask you now. I know I was a person in when I was in back home dental school. I used to be very particular. Like, no, I have to get I have to get like 85. I have to get like 90. Yeah, it worked. It helped definitely. But now my focus when I'm in school right now is more clinical because I have stepped into the real world. I know what is the importance of clinical experience rather than grades. Like if I would have studied that the whole book of prosthodontic didn't help, but what I did like 6 dentures in my back, like whatever, it helped. So like the how this field works. So that is also another thing I would tell.
Thanks, Shivam. It
Not
waking up at 6:30 a.m. in the morning help. No, sometimes it helps to hear this when you're waking up for the webinar early. So thank you for saying that. We are always humbled to hear things when we hear it. And this is the first time I've done this because people have already been saying bye, and you also have said bye. But because it's you and you said you're enjoying this, if we can just take 5 minutes, right? Top one thing each that you would, because we didn't talk about temp.
Hello?
When we lost you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear
Can you
you.
hear me now? Yes. Sorry, top one thing that you will have to say about temple interview and temple bench before we wrap up, since we didn't really approach that topic. Anything that you
Sure.
can tell them if you get in, yeah.
Sure. So how temple works at like you get interview first and then it's the bench test. So there's a particular day for a bench test. And temple interview is the simplest thing in the you can ever have, to be very honest. And temple do ask you clinical scenarios, but what they look for in that clinical scenario is how smartly you answer. I would just give you a small example, and I found out afterwards that okay, this was a good reply because when I talked to my faculty, she remembers me. Okay, so this was a scenario she gave me. I was given a scenario like, okay, so you have a patient and you saw that it's an impacted third molar, whatever you saw it, and you referred that case to your oral surgeon friend, and your oral surgeon friend calls you, and he says that, oh, Shivam, you missed the cavity on whatever tooth, and your patient comes back to you because they have to come back. What would be your answer? I'm like, see, first of all, if I am sending a case to an oral surgeon, that means it has to be the last resource. Like there should be a significant problem that the patient is facing, and that's why I'm sending to the oral surgeon. So that is means I'm answering patient's chief complaint. That is something I have done first. So that's why I send this patient to oral surgeon first. And cavity, I understand that it's part of your infection, like the first phase 1 control of disease. But if I'm sending the case to neurosurgeon with a pain, like if the patient has said that he has pain or he or she has pain in the lower molar or something, that means the patient wants to answer his chief complaint first rather than just like, if I would have the patient in my chair and if I tell that you have 50 cavities and then the patient gets more anxious that, oh, I have 50 cavities and I still have to go to the neurosurgeon. So that's what I told. And I still remember that she's my like when I met her, she's like, "Oh, I remember your answer, like the way you gave it." It's like, okay, so like I just answered the patient's chief complaint. So I just keep it very short, like very short answer. Like answering the patient's chief complaint is the main thing. So that was Temple interview. And they usually like to ask you two scenarios, but what they look for is not a technical answer. Like this I won't call a technical answer, that oh, because there was a class 1 cavity, like oh, there was a mesioangular impaction. No, it was how you delegate that task. Like, so they're going to ask you a clinical scenario in a way like you as a general dentist will do, not a specialist question, not a technical question. So they won't ask you like, oh, like if you messed up a crown prep, there's an open margin after you cemented, what are you going to do? No, that's not the clinical scenario. So the clinical scenario will be more on general day-to-day basis. Sometimes you don't have to be a dentist to answer the clinical scenario. So it's just very, very day-to-day life in clinical scenarios, I would say. So you get the interview first, and then you have a particular day of bench test. And on the day of the bench test, first of all, after the interview, I think they give you like 4 or 5 slots, so you can select the day you want. It's not that particular day you'll be interviewed. An interview is online, and bench test obviously you have to be at the spot. So they'll tell you the day in advance. So when they tell you the day in advance, it's that day they'll tell you what they're gonna ask you. I remember last year what they did was they only told people or they're gonna ask a week before. So that is also something you should keep in your mind. But I would say just do the common things, just do the common preps, and it's the same thing. It's just the other thing they added this year was a class 3, like just a prep, not even restoring it. So that is something I feel like even you, if you are not done in your like you know, said like 5 years, you still could do a class. Class 3 is the easiest thing you can do. So so that's how it works. And on the day of bench test, let me walk through that. This is very important. When you come in for the bench test, you have to give something called as an OSCE exam. So OSCE exam, I have all the time people questioning about like, what is OSCE exam? It's very simple exam. It's just they want to know like whether you still know the technical dental knowledge or not. So how easy questions are there? I remember still one question. It was like they asked me to diagnose a class 2, and it was a classical class 2. Like there was an extra of I think number 20, number 19, and you have to see whether this is a class 2 or not. So that type of question, something that's just you know it, something I would study for it. Like, you know, you don't have to specially study for those all questions. And yeah, those were the questions for OSCE. Like nothing like any significant. Like it was even like simpler than and BD exam. Like and BD exam is somewhere here, where OSCE exam was here. Once you do that OSCE exam, then you get 1 hour for your class 2 prep, and then you do your class 2 in 1 hour, just a prep. You don't have to restore it. And then you get 2 hours, and I think in that 2 hour you do first the class. This year they added the class 3. But in that 2 hour, you do 2 preps. One all ceramic number 8, and your PFM on number 19 and number 30. So total is 3 hours, and I think this year was 4. And they provide lunch and everything. So that is another thing. And it's just you start from I think it was 9 in the morning, and it takes around like 3 or 4. So that is Temple. That's how Temple works. And about preparing for bench exam, they'll tell you exactly what burrs they're gonna give you. Honestly, I didn't have that particular burrs which Temple gave me. I would say it's this is something I don't know like about it. They give you a O14, so that's like a thick, like O18. That's the thickest burr you can have for your prep. It's just cuts too much teeth material. That's another controversial topic. I'm like in with the fight with the school, but they tell you exactly what burrs they give you. So that level of they are telling, like it's like you have the answer sheet before you're going to the exam. Then all you have to do is just give a good bench test. I don't know about other schools, but I gave bench test at Loma Linda. They didn't give me anything. Like I wasn't told anything. So there are schools like that. Like Nourah, so then I think when you go on that day for your bench exam, like the day before, they'll tell you everything, what burrs they're gonna give you, what materials you're gonna get, what exactly and you can still practice in their pre-clinic, and then you can give the test next day. But Temple doesn't allow you to do that, so you just have to come on the day of the bench, and that is what it is. And they use Module Pro. typhoid on. So that is also one thing you should keep in mind. And for class 2 preps, they just give you the basic bursts. So your 330 to 45. And for your crown preps, they just give you basic bursts again, like your chamfer shoulder and your needle, and probably I would say a barrel for your lingual. That's it. Sorry guys, I did, it was too technical.
I know, I'm sure that's what they're looking for. The more the better, especially when it's bench and interview. Thank you so much, Shivam. Again, we'll wrap up with this, but I think this helps, especially for Temple OSCE. Someone had asked about OSCE as well. So thanks for touching up on that. Thanks for the patience on both sides. We all of us really enjoyed the session, and I think a lot of people, what they said here in the chat is, thank you for an honest session, and I agree. I couldn't agree more. That's exactly why the whole Pathfinder was born, to hear from you all what you really went through. And I think let's part with Shivam's grandfather's wisdom, because I think that's absolutely amazing, and something that not just helps in the application but also in life sometimes, when you just have to just live your life. And there's a lot of unsolicited opinions that come from your inner critique and from others, so sometimes the blinders really help, and looking at only things that you really need to look at. And for everyone attending, in the next coming weeks, we have some exciting stuff that's lined up. We have a Q&A with our co-founders, Karthik and Dr. Nourah. Then we have a session on the upcoming TOEFL change, a webinar on that. And we're also looking forward to hosting some of you all to just talk about the kind of stress that you all take when this app process goes on. So all this is lined up. Please take a look and keep an eye out on our channel to know the dates. And looking forward to seeing same names or similar faces and names on our next sessions. And see you all there. Have a good night. Have a nice weekend. Thank you so much. And good luck, Shivam, for your tests, which is an
Thank you.
ongoing thing.
Thank you so much.
Never-
And all the best to everyone for applying. And just don't think about it, just apply, I would say. Then just do your best. Give your best.